Okay, everyone, we are live. Just gonna wait a little bit for some people to come on. Meanwhile, I'm going to finish my flight plan that I'll be flying on Saturday. I'm going to start right now. Alright. Welcome. In this live stream podcast, I'm going to be talking about the private pilot Checkride. Now, the private pilot Checkride is probably one of the most stressful and one of the most horrifying things a student pilot could think of. I know that was me. Prior to my Checkride, I was kind of freaking out, especially the week prior to my Checkride. But it's completely normal. I mean, student pilots, the private pilot Checkride is your first Checkride that you'll ever, it's your first Checkride, and you never know what you're going to expect. You don't know what a Checkride is, or you know what it is, but you just don't know what you're going to encounter. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, this live stream or podcast, how my Checkride went and how you can probably improve yours by learning from a few of my little mistakes. So I guess we should start off by talking about the private pilot Checkride. The private pilot Checkride is basically the last step for a private pilot to complete for their license. It's right after all their training, they go to a DPE or an examiner, and they basically you do a flight. It's broken up in two portions. The oral portion, which is talking about your flight plan, is the aircraft airworthy, and I'll get into that of what mine consisted of. And then you got the flight portion, where you fly the airplane with the examiner, and basically prove that you can fly a plane safely, but also executing emergency procedures and all that good stuff. So, yeah, the private pilot Checkride is basically that, and every student pilot that wants to be a private pilot has to go through this experience. So everyone has to go through it. I bet everyone else, like myself, was very, very nervous, but it's completely normal. You don't know everything, and that's what I definitely felt like going into the Checkride, not feeling like I knew everything, which that's completely normal. Just know everything that the ECS talks about, and I'll go through what that is in a bit. So, let's start off with training up to the private pilot Checkride. You go through your training, all your required hours, all your required stuff that you need to go through with your instructor, and then that's kind of like the basics. So let's just go into how I studied. So how I studied was some material that I studied over was the material that I used to pass my FAA private pilot written exam test, and that was some material that I used to study. That was this giant textbook. It's called Rod Machado's Private Pilot Handbook, 3rd edition. So yeah, I used that, and I still use that. Obviously, studying for my Checkride, I had some questions I wasn't completely for sure on, so I'd go into a topic in that book and I'd look it up. And also, I'd use the Private Pilot FAA Knowledge Test made by Glenn textbook. These are two great textbooks that you can learn from. They both have little tiny quizzes that you can learn from. You can use those obviously for the written exam test, because that's what I picked them up for. And then also one of the biggest pieces that I've used to study on was the FAR AIM textbook. This is basically the Bible of aviation. Learn this thing from inside out. I mean, I would suggest reading it at least once, twice going into your check ride. It's definitely helpful, especially navigating through it. In case the examiner asks you to look up a regulation and he asks you to find it in the book, you should be able to navigate through it and be able to find it. I have little tiny bookmarks in here of like topics that are really helpful to know. But also, you can go on your iPad, you can get the FAR-AIM downloaded on, you can do a little search bar. I mean, that's completely okay too, as long as your DPE or examiner allows it. Use it. My examiner, he was completely okay with it. He said, it's the 21st century. Use whatever material that you're using. So I use that as well. And then also, I hope everyone knows what the ACS is, or the PTS. Now it's the ACS. Airman Certification Standards. That's what the ACS stands for. So ACS is basically, obviously, the Airman Certification Standards, and it's a giant, not really giant, it's just, it's like, what, I want to say 80 to 100 pages long. Basically, it tells you what the check ride, or the private pilot check ride, is going to be, asking you to do. Basically, shows what you need to do and what you need to learn on. And hopefully that you are completely, hopefully that you're proficient on everything. So you could pick it up online, you could print them out. I did the same thing. I broke it up in two textbooks-ish, part 1 and part 2, from page 1 to 39 to 40 to 98 pages. Basically, here's an example, like slow flight and stalls. Maneuvering during slow flight, the applicant demonstrates understanding of aerodynamics. You need to understand everything in here, because once you do, you're pretty much golden. I mean, if you know everything in ACS, you should be good. But obviously study more. And then the biggest piece of gold for the studying for my upcoming check ride I did was the ASA Private Pilot Oral Exam Guide. This thing, I hope everybody who does their check ride has. Except the ACS. You should at least read that 6 times. I read it over and over and over again. But also, before I start going into this, the ACS you can also get on your iPad. I have it on my iPad as well. It's easy for on the go. But also, this is not digital, I don't think, but these books are great. It goes from the private pilot studying to, airline transportation pilot. These things are great. It helps you study up for the check ride. I can't express how much it helped me. It has basically like all the questions that a examiner would ask you, like what type of engine does your aircraft have, or describe winds and temperature law forecast for the flight or just in general, or what is a national security area, what is a warning area, is an emergency locator transmitter required on all aircraft, stuff like that. So if just go through this book. I went through this book at least 5 times, just reading over it. I nearly had pages falling out because I've used it so much. I have bookmarks everywhere. Great book. Highly suggest it. You need to get it. It's great. Very great. And then during these, studying through this, I have had notebooks to take notes on. I try to minimize the notebook because I want to know, everything memorized, not memorization, but in my knowledge in my brain, so I'm not really always having to go through the notes, which is nice to do that, but it'd be nice to know the material offhand. So I have like the private pilot prep notes in this little handy book. I didn't really do a lot of notes in this book. I kind of switched over to these little memo books. I broke it up in topics like This one's for specifically the aircraft notes, so for Nigel uniform, plane, like V speeds, engine, and then here's like the airport light gun, airport information, night flying, pilot proficiency, briefings for passengers. This one's for airspace and weather minimums, just great stuff that I can just like automatically go through and find what I need to study on. So great. Those are one of the biggest topics, or one of the biggest studying materials, books that you can study for. And so I use that. Obviously, I would study mostly every day, but for the week prior to my check ride, I was non-stop studying, going through this book all the time. And if there's like a regulation in the answer, I would always look it up in the FAR A book just to learn more about that regulation. So go through that. That's what I did. So yeah, that's what I did for studying for my for upcoming check ride for the week prior to it. And now, don't stress yourself out too much. Like I said, you don't know everything. And when the guy congratulated me on my license, we shook his hand. He was like, "Congratulations, you just got your license to learn." And I was really confused. I'm like, what? And then I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I just got my license to learn, and just now beginning to learn aviation with my license. So, you don't know everything, and don't stress yourself out too much. But go in it with a lot of knowledge, though. Go in it really confident and tell yourself that you know everything, or not know everything, but all the material that you need to know. So for the past 3 days prior to my check ride, I started studying a lot, but also I started talking or gathering all the information and material that I needed for my check ride, like all of the needed stuff like my logbook and whatever, going through all, tallying up or adding up all my flight time. And with this private pilot oral exam guide, it has applicants' practical test checklist, and so this is really handy because it gives you a practical test checklist. So acceptable aircraft, aircraft documents, airworthiness, registration, operating limitations. Block out all the information there. But you have this whole checklist right here that you can just check off, like, do I have this, do I have that? Very handy. Like I said, get this book. So also going through this was the private pilot airman certifications ACS standards condensed. So I don't know if you can read that. Basically, if you're following the ACS, you know how long it is, and if the examiner is going to check you off one by one, going in order, it's going to take forever. But this is basically the condensed, version of it, and so it's not taking that forever. And every examiner is different. Let's just say that right now. Don't expect to have the same procedure and order that another pilot had with that same examiner. They always change it up, so don't feel like you're gonna know everything and what exact time he's gonna pull some crap on you, like emergency landing or some sort of that. So everyone's different. Be prepared to have an intimidating examiner. I had a very intimidating examiner, but he was a really cool guy. So, obviously do not get on his bad side. Don't, disrespect him, and when he shakes your hand, do not shake his hand. Shake his hand, Give a good, firm handshake, Don't do a little wimpy one. Make him know that you're in there for business, You want to get this done. You're really serious, okay? So, obviously, main materials that you need on that are in there. Obviously, bring a sectional. Updated sectional, not an outdated, updated sectional. Also, you can have your iPad. Make sure he's okay with you using technology, because my examiner was okay with it, but, like I said, other examiners are not the same, and so, ask him if he's okay with that. So, bring all the material documents. Let's go into the flight plan. So he made me flight plan from Farmington, or Kilo Foxtrot Mike November, to this little airport, Echo 901, and people know him for flight planning long cross countries for applicants, but like I said, he always is different. So he made me plan this tiny, I think it was a 57.8-minute flight, and a really simple flight, but also it was a really difficult flight plan because there's so much mountain terrain, a lot of restricted airspace on the way, so you gotta deviate around that. But so flight planning it, I flight planned it a few days before. Not the winds aloft and temperatures, just like the checkpoints, waypoints, crew course route, true course, heading variation, all the airport information. Now, I got the weather for that flight a few hours prior to the flight, so that means I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning because I live out of town where I fly out of at the 00 Charlie, and then I have to meet the examiner in Farmington, so I have to get in the plane at 00 Charlie, fly to Kilo Foxtrot Mike November, and that's like a 30-minute flight, 40-minute flight. So I had to meet him there at 7 o'clock. So I had to wake up, get the flight plan done, get at the airport around 6 o'clock, or no, like 5:30 pre-flight, get some extra time, be conservative about the time, get over to the Farmington around like 40 minutes to an hour, anticipate the time and unexpected turbulence. But I don't know how to explain this, but be aware of, I don't know how to explain this, this is live, so I'm not really memorizing what I was going to say, but be cautious about the timing and don't rush it in half an hour. I woke up and I had the spare time flight planning for 2 hours because I wanted to double check everything and different weight and balance and such. So flight plan, weight and balance, just be cautious about the time. Anticipate it as well. So the night before though, I stopped studying because I studied just as much as I could have in my brain, and so the night before, or the day before I studied, but the night before I just kind of relaxed. I just got some sleep. Get some sleep. That's a huge key to the Checkride of passing and not being completely brain dead. Get some sleep, because I got around 3 hours. That's good enough because I was really excited to get this done. But I was really I felt really good about it, and I didn't really feel that tired. But I did get some coffee on the way. But yeah, get some sleep. So the morning, like I said, flight plan, got up really early, and also I don't know about anyone else but for their Checkride, but get a weather briefing as well. Don't file a flight plan, just get a weather briefing for that flight. And I was calling out flight service there. I said, this is from my private pilot Checkride. I'm not filing a flight plan, just like the weather for the flight. He's like, all right, understand. And so he gave me all the information. Then he started asking me all the stuff that he would be being needed for filing a flight plan. So I started giving him this, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not filing a flight plan. And I was really cautious about that, but he just wanted my information. So I was really kind of scared about that because I didn't want to file a flight plan, but I didn't anyways. He just wanted some background information. So took off, and I arrived at Farmington, and there's a lot of hangars that look the same, and so I texted him a day before, which hangar are you in? He was like, the yellow one, the big yellow one with an H on it. I'm like, okay. That probably will be really very recognizable. So I landed, was taxiing onto the ground, and I was looking for his hangar, but there's 4 hangars that are the same color, and 3 of them have an H on it for hangar 1, hangar 2, hangar 3, and I just started, slow taxiing around, looking, kind of like, oh God, which which hangar is it? And then I finally saw him get out, open the door, and he was like waving me down. So I parked at the nearest parking spot next to this hangar. Got out, shut down the aircraft, tied it up, did all the proper ramp stuff, and got out of the aircraft, and it's like, Colin, right? Yes. And like I said, shake his hand like you mean business, and he had the strongest handshake I've ever experienced, and I was trying to keep up with it, so I was trying to slowly, not cramp his hand, but I started tensing up a little bit more, and then I don't know why, but he was talking while he was shaking his hand, so it was like a good 7 to 10 second handshake, and this was like, all right, this is getting a little awkward here, but yeah, we got that over with, and we started going into the hangar. I followed him in, and I was really amazed because he owns this giant hangar. He owns I think it was like a King Air C90, something like that, Beechcraft King Air C90, and I was pretty amazed by that. It was all shiny, white and blue stripes, beautiful aircraft, and I was just in awe about it. He was like, oh, my office is over here. Oh, sorry, yeah. And he laughed, and so I was like, all right, this is going really well. And we started some small talk about aircrafts and stuff, and how other aircraft suck, and we started just trash talking other aircraft. So it was, I felt pretty confident now. Like, all right, this is going pretty well. We're just doing some small talk. So it wasn't that bad meeting him. But then we started going into the documentation of like, do you have all the required stuff? I'm like, yes, sir. Always, be respectful. I've always been raised around saying yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And so I called him, said yes, sir, no, sir, and so. That really shows, the level of respect that person gives, so if that makes sense. So we started going on IACRA, and we started filling out the proper stuff, and then we started going to the oral portion, and the oral portion, it was kind of fun, kind of not. He just asked me a lot of regulations, like parts regulation, whatever, and like I said, I read the FAR AIM a few times, and it's nice to know that, but he asked me a few questions about that, and I actually had it bookmarked, so that was really helpful, so I could just look through that and pick it up. But also he asked me a lot about the flight plan that I flight planned for that day, and then also a lot of VFR weather minimums as well. One of the biggest topics that he focused on was medical conditions like hypoxia, all that stuff. And so I studied a lot on that, but I could have done better because he was talking more. He had more things to say. I was kind of digging myself in a hole for one portion of it in the hypoxia part, because he asked me a simple question and I answered it, but then I started going into another thing. So he kind of followed me into that world of what I was talking about. Then he started asking me more questions about that. I got out of it clean. I didn't mess up, but don't do that because you're probably going to go somewhere where you don't want to go, and you're hopefully not, but you probably might BS yourself away through, and then they'll find out that if you're BSing or not. So don't let the DPE do, or the examiner. Let the examiner do most of the questioning and talking. Give them simple answers. So the oral portion went through about an hour and a half, not that bad. I expected around an hour, but an hour and a half or so. And then we got up in the plane and did my pre-flight, but I don't know if he was testing me on this, but halfway through my pre-flight inspection, he was on his phone following me around, and my phone's not working, it's not calling. Can you help me really quick? And I'm like, yeah, sure, after my pre-flight. And so, I didn't want to get distracted, so I don't know if that was being tested on or such for distraction, but I felt like I handled that well, and I wanted to focus on pre-flight and making sure there's no damage to the aircraft during my first leg to Farmington. But after that, I fixed his phone, and he appreciated that a lot. So I'm like, all right, now I think I'm on his good side. So I fixed his phone. It wouldn't call for some reason, but yeah, we got into the aircraft and we called up ground for a taxi to the active. So we taxied out, simple normal takeoff. We flew over to the practicing area, and it was right next to a military restricted airspace. So he constantly was watching me, look at my iPad, look at my sectional, making sure we're not busting that airspace. But we did a lot of maneuvers, following the ACS. He had a really simple, condensed ACS version. We did slow flight, power on, power off, stalls, turns around at points, S turns, steep turns. I already said that. We did also a lot of simulated instrument flying, under the hood. I don't know why, but I really enjoy that. It's really fun. So I did pretty well, I think, on that. Also, don't expect to read your examiner really well, because I wasn't really able to read him really well. I mean, a few parts he said very good, even though I was like, I did good. But also the other stuff that I felt really confident on, he didn't really say that, so I felt really nervous about the outcome of if I passed that or not. So did all the the maneuvers and all the stuff that the ACS basically asks you. And so he'd ask me a few questions up there, and also we do some unusual attitudes, under the hood, or actually your head in your lap and closing your eyes. You do some maneuver, and then you'd be like, all right, heads up, recover from this attitude. So we did some of that. Let's see. Basically following the ACS, he'd take me out somewhere with my head in my lap, and then he'd ask me, all right, where are we? And so, using the VORs, and he was really impressed about my knowledge on the VORs. So, know the biggest topics of flying, and then study on it a lot, because simple VORs, I found some tricks that I could do to help me know navigation better. And so he was really appreciative about how I knew more than what I needed to know. So we did all the maneuvers. We flew back to the airport, and we did the required landings and takeoffs. So we started with the short field landing. He picked a landing zone where he wanted me to land. Well, before that, actually, I forgot to tell you this. We were flying out, and he had a buddy that had a homemade runway, and it was all dirt, and so it was right next to a road, so it was really hard to identify. I thought it was just a road, but he took me out way far, and he was like, all right, find that runway. And I'm like, okay. And I thought it was going from east to west, but it was actually going from north to south. So, because I was looking for it, and I thought I saw a runway. And then he was like, all right, are you sure that's it? I'm like, yes, sir. I think yes, sir. I was starting over myself, and then I finally said, yes, that's it. And he was like, well, nope, that's not. And my stomach dropped, because I was just like, oh my god, I screwed this up. But I still had a lot of altitude, so I could still find it. And so I was looking around there. I finally found it, and then he pulled the power on me, and then he was like, all right, make an emergency landing. So I was like, all right. So I continued. I was actually on a downwind for the runway, so I continued my downwind because it was very high, and I had a lot of airspeed. So then I turned my base too early, and I was coming in way too high and way too fast. So I dumped all the flaps and started doing a slip, and then did a slip, and then I still would not make it. So I actually came back around. I had a lot of altitude, by the way, so it was really acceptable for me to do this. Came back around to here's the runway, okay? Here's me up here. I was coming in. Okay. I was coming up too high, too fast, so I came back around out here, And the runway's was still far out there, but you know, it was too high. I saw it. Came back out here, and then it started coming back in, so I can lose the altitude and speed out here. Then I started coming back in, and then I would have landed perfectly. Right when I was landing up, and right when I was about like 100 feet off the ground, he was like, "All right, clean it up. Let's go home." And so cleaned it up, basically a go around. So that was the he knew that, knew how to do a go around. So came back, went back to the airport, Farmington, and then we did all the maneuvers. Oh, before I go any further, the maneuvers out in the practice area, we also did slips and spins. It was very hard for me to do a spin because the 172 Model N just basically does not spin. So you know how to do a spin. But anyway, we were flying back and we did all the landings. You know, short field landing, soft field landing, normal landing, short field takeoff, soft field takeoff, normal takeoff. You know, specific parts on the runway here where he wants me to land, and then we landed, and then the last landing was a normal landing, and I don't know why, but it wasn't the prettiest landing, and I was really like breathing heavy because I did not feel like I passed honestly after that landing because I floated and then I bounced twice, just not incredibly huge bounce, but you know I bounced maybe like that far off the ground, so it wasn't incredibly bad, but you know I felt like really bad about it, and so right when we vacated the runway, I was kind of like, oh god, I feel like I just failed it, and then like, well, you're passing so far, and that was a huge relief, like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm passing so far, and so you know that was a huge checkpoint in the Checkride where I was like, okay, this is a huge relief, I'm so far passing, and then something sparked in my mind like, this is the last, like that was probably the last part of flying in this Checkride. I think I might have passed, and then we were taxiing back to the hangars, and then going back, and I could not read this guy at all though, because I feel like I did fail though. I was really confused, so I feel like what was going through my mind was like, alright, I passed the flying portion, but I did not pass the oral portion. So taxiing back, shut down the aircraft, and then I was like, alright, meet you inside. So at this point, I felt like I did fail. I had no idea what happened. I had no idea if I passed or failed. So I shut down the aircraft, just like kind of nervous, like, oh, you know, I hope you guys know that feeling, like, did I pass or not? So shut down the aircraft, gathered all my stuff, and put in my flight bag, went back out, or went back into the hangar, and then into his office, and then I sat down, and then he was on his computer at his desk, and he was typing up some stuff, and I just got a glimpse of on the screen of I'm supposed to put stuck in my eye, the font of temporary airman certification or certificate, and I know from previous pilots that's what you get when you pass a Checkride. So I was really like kind of happy to see that, but at the same time like, oh, maybe he's just scrolling through like the options of what he's gonna give me, and then he started printing out things, nothing pink or the other color, but just white. So I'm like, okay, maybe I did, maybe I passed, and then he turned back around. He had this grin on his face, and I don't know. I was kind of convinced I didn't fail, and so he had that grin on his face, and he stuck his arm out. He's like, "Congratulations, you got your license to learn." And, that's what I was talking about before. I'm like, what? I thought I just passed my Checkride, and then I was thinking, oh yeah, I just got my license to learn now with the private pilot's license. I can learn now. And so I shook his hand with a firm handshake, and yeah, it was a temporary airman certificate. I'm still waiting on the plastic card to come into the mail. I passed it on June 27th, so a few weeks back. But yeah, I still have the paper version. I want the plastic. I want it to be official. um, yeah, it went overall smooth. I kind of enjoyed the flying portion, and sometimes the oral portion. It was really fun, honestly. I kind of got out of my mind like this wasn't a check ride. This was just talking to my instructor, and it was really fun, honestly. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it a lot. So I hope everyone else enjoys it, and doesn't go into it and start flying it completely nervous as well, because that's going to end up possibly in failure because you're thinking of something else besides flying the aircraft, like passing or failing. You just gotta. That's one thing I kind of forgot in my mind. Like, just forget pass or fail. Okay, start flying the aircraft and be pilot in command. Okay, don't think about passing or failing. Don't even think about an exam, because basically this is your first passenger, and treat it like a passenger as well. And that passenger passed me on my check ride. So yeah, that's how my check ride went. Any questions that you guys have, just leave it in the description, the comments section below, because I will probably answer within like half an hour to an hour. So if you guys have any questions prior to your check ride in like a day, I will respond soon and not late. So yeah, any questions, just ask me. So yeah, that's how my check ride went. I hope your guys' went well. I know mine went well. So yeah, it was a great experience. I will remember it to the day I die. It was something, that's a huge benchmark for a pilot in their careers, that when they pass their first check ride for the first time. And for me, it was, I was speechless when I shook his hands. I'm like, thank you. I had this giant smile on my face, and he was grinning, and he was really happy for me. And yeah, it was a great day. And when I packed up and I started going out to the aircraft to fly back home, I was so tired. You have no idea. Like, I was sitting in there, just not kind of like in sweat, but also I'm just so tired I could take a nap. So I walked right back into the FBO that they had up there, and I picked up I think it was like a Monster, and I hate Monster, but that's the only caffeine drink they had there. All the coffee was just gone, and I didn't have time to brew some, so picked up a disgusting Monster, drank half of it, threw it away. Horrible. Also had a muffin. It was very good, very supreme muffin, very good. So yeah, it was really fun. Then I started the engine, flew back home, and yeah, it was a great experience. When I landed when I was actually coming into to my home airport, Amos traffic, 9 Uniform is 13 miles to the south, inbound 19 Amos. And I think it was like my instructor who got on the radio. They're like, woohoo! Because I think my examiner texted those guys and be like, oh, he passed. So people were cheering on the radio, and I was really confused of like, do they know I passed? And I made a good landing to shut down the aircraft. Then my parents came out, huge celebration. We went out to lunch. Then I took them out both flying right after lunch. So it was really fun, very fun day. Yeah, like I said, I hope everyone else has a great experience like I did. Just embrace the suck of it sometimes. Even if you're like thinking that wasn't the best maneuver, just embrace it. Just think of like what you did wrong and what you can do better. For the simplest maneuver, my examiner told me to do S-turns. So that's basically, I picked a road and did S-turns, and when I cross over the road, I have to be perpendicular to the road. But the first S-turn was not perpendicular. It was like at 45 at the 45-degree angle to the road. So I said, whoops, I'm not perpendicular. I'm going to redo that again. But I haven't even started it, if you think about it, because an S-turn could be ongoing. So I completed the S-turn with good perpendicular angles. And this is one thing that I was told before my check ride, is to, whenever you're doing something, talk him through, like go through like if just fly it like if you're with an instructor. So basically that would, for me, I'd be talking through like what I'd be doing for like a maneuver, or like when I'm coming into land, I'd be like, alright, trimming out for 65, flaps 20 degrees, trim down for 65. And you know, that really shows like, okay, even if this guy did not perfectly, you know, wasn't exact on the maneuver, at least he knows how to do it. And so that made a lot of sense for me. And so, you know, I started doing that a lot in my head, or talking verbally. You know, it worked out perfectly. So I'm sorry to just keep going on about like tips and stuff, but you know, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. So yeah, I don't really know what to say now. I mean, this is just a live stream right now, so I don't even have the comments section open yet. I'm sorry. This is a new app, not YouTube. It's not YouTube, it's just a new app for broadcasting. I don't know how to open the comments. Oh well, you know, just ask me those comments down in the comments section below, and I'll answer them within an hour. But yeah, that's how it went, and I actually moved from Colorado to Michigan, and you know, just for, you know, other reasons. But we still own the house in Colorado, so we're always going back there. But there's a lot of flying vlogs I'm probably gonna make. I know this Sunday I'm going to go take my dad flying. We're probably going to be going golfing somewhere, so I'm going to be taking him flying somewhere cool. But yeah, it's going to be fun. So like, this is how Michigan people like show a map, but we're down here. We're going to be flying up to the Thumb, and we're going to be doing some golfing there. Really good golf course. But yeah, I'm actually now checked out on the Piper Warrior, the Cessna 172N, and Model N, Model M as well, the Cessna 152, and two 150s as well. So I guess I'm on my way. I'm getting a lot of time now. Soon be taking my IFR. I think in the next 2 weeks I'm going to start taking lessons of my IFR, so that'll be really fun. But yeah, it's going really well. Once you get your Checkride done, huge relief. So you have a lot of options after that to fly. So I know I did now. I'm like, there's so many options. But yeah, have fun with your Checkride. If, like I said, again, any questions, please feel free to contact me either in the comment section below, or you can go on Instagram and find me at pilot_Colin, Colin spelled C-O-L-I-N, and you know, find an account that looks familiar to my face right here, and you know, DM me. I'll respond immediately. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. If you have any questions, like I said, contact me. So that'll be it. I'm actually making a new flight simulator. This panel back here, old panel. We don't want that. We're making new. We're making a new flight simulator, 2-seater, one set. You know, I'm not even gonna tell you guys. Next video. So everyone, hope you enjoyed it. Comment below. Enjoy. Fly safe, guys.